Welcome, Luis. Very happy to have you on board of us today for a joint webinar. Let me just have a very brief introduction of NPAW. What does NPAW actually does? What is our product proposition? And then, Luis, would be great if you could say a few words about Simplestream before we actually start our discussion of our today webinar. Yeah.
Sure. Great.
So for those who don't know NPAW yet, we are. I think I need to click. Hold on. As I said, it's really brief. Just like 2 slides from NPAW. So for those who don't know us, we are the global leading video intelligence company, and we do gather, correlate, and visualize all kind of video insights to provide video analytics. And I will show you on the next slide what kind of data do we track and what does it actually mean in terms of our product. But before that, just a few numbers on and facts about NPAW. So we provide, or we process over 120 billion video plays per year with our 155 plus clients worldwide, and basically we do that all around the globe with the different customers in the different industries, in the different categories. For example, like the broadcasters like Fox or TF1 in France, OTT providers like Pluto or Tubi, and of course a lot of the major telco operators like Vodafone and Deutsche Telekom are our customers. Oops, one. And as I just said, we do provide an entire product suite. So we literally have a product for all departments that are close to their product, close to the customer, starting with a application and performance analytics. For the moment when the user actually starts the navigation, starts the app, we do track what is the performance of the application by itself. So does it generate any crashes or errors or quality issues? And also we track how does the user actually behave. So how does he browse through the content? How does he actually find the relevant content for him? What kind of feature in the app does he use? For example, does he use a lot of the search bar or the recommendation? So the second product we provide is a product that tracks the content consumption patterns in terms of the content discovery, but also what kind of content does the user actually is consuming. And then we follow the user journey where the user starts the video stream by analyzing the platform performance, the quality of experience of the video and the player itself. Where does the stream actually create crashes or errors or quality issues? And if it does so, we also provide a product for the customer care so that it can see the problems on an individual level of the user by itself and can help the user much faster and much more accurate. And we do all that, also like in terms of that we track and the user behavior and engagement. So what kind of device is he using for watching the content? What content is he watching? How often is he returning? So how often does he actually use your platform or use the platform of our customers? So we do track the customer engagement as well. And basically for all kind of contents, we do all these. So we do track all these different points for linear TV, for live TV, but also for video on demand, for SVOD, for example, but also for AVOD. So we also provide a product where you can track the advertising performance, the quality performance of the advertising, but also the advertising efficiency in terms of advertising acceptance of the user by itself, right? So that was it in a nutshell, a very fast run through. And Luis, would be great if, as we said, you could say a few words about Simplestream, about your product proposition before we start with our discussion.
Sure, thanks Till, a great overview. So just to give a broad idea of what we do at Simplestream, so we're a streaming solutions provider with a focus on video. And really what that means is that we provide turnkey solutions for broadcasters and media owners with pre-integrated SVOD, TVOD, AVOD monetization and various other forms as well, together with out-of-the-box applications across really all of the mainstream platforms. I think we support around 13 at the moment. That comes together with a full content management solution, our CMS called Media Manager. And within Media Manager, we have multiple functional modules. This includes support for live streaming, VOD management, of course, stitching together VOD to create new linear live streams, which is our VOD to live product, together with other functions like payments, authentication, and also syndicating live streams and VOD content to third parties such as Comcast, Pluto, and many others like Samsung TV Plus. In essence, what we provide to customers is the tools to be able to increase reach, drive interaction, and create new revenue streams from their existing content. And so for us, NPAW really is a key partner because insights and reporting really are critical in the world of OTT. You can't really be having streaming without visibility of what is happening on your platforms. And so all of the services we provide are, of course, video centric. NPAW itself is plugged into all of the video players in our applications, wherever those happen to live. And what that means is because we've got a standardized implementation, is that our customers can get a consistent view of what's happening on their platforms, no matter where the customer happens to be. That can be from coming into your house on your iPhone at the beginning of the evening, turning that off, picking up where you left off on your Fire TV. We know where that user has come from, and we know that it's the same user across both of those devices because we're tracking the user ID as an example, and our customers benefit from those insights. Our main use cases for NPAW really are quality of experience, because we track the technical metrics, some of which you covered in your overview, which are quality metrics which allow us to monitor performance and track issues, basically. Pure analytics, of course, which is where we can see how content is performing and critically what is not performing. And we use dozens of metrics that come out of the box in order to derive those insights. And then lastly, really, it's just general, sometimes quite mundane reporting that allow our customers to meet their internal and external reporting needs and the needs of their external content owners, because many of our customers may license content from really big third parties, and that comes with reporting obligations. That's a kind of a brief overview from my side as to kind of how we use NPAW.
Thank you very much, Luis. I think you touched a lot of very interesting use cases already that we're going to discuss in the next 25 to 30 minutes. So great product there. Congrats on that. I think let us start with having a look on the industry by itself and what happened last year and over the 2 years, actually last 2 years. I mean, we've seen incredible, intense competition in the market, right? I mean, we see a lot of enormous number of different video platforms are coming new into the market, new platforms like Discovery Plus, HBO Max, CNN Plus, ESPN Plus, etc. So a lot of different new names in the market, on top to a lot of different verticals of special interest pages, right? Or different special interest platforms that show like sports content, betting, faith-based content, etc. So content seems to be pretty much everywhere, right? And even better content seems to be just one click away. In fact, we see a lot of users that are actually having incredible amount of subscriptions already. So I think what is really a big issue and the major challenge in the industry currently is to actually keep these customers as a loyal customer, right? So keep them away from churning and keep them as existing customers. And I think therefore it's really important to keep them, to understand them, to understand the user, understand his needs, understand his pain points. And I think that seems to be more and more important. And in fact, I just read something of DPP where they announced that actionable insights is one of the top 5 trends for 2022. So you mentioned it before. I mean, it's a data-driven business, right? So what is your view on that situation, and how important is it for Simplestream and your customers to have a clear understanding of what is going on the different platforms, what is going on, in terms of technical performance, quality of experience, but also in terms of user behavior and consumption patterns of the user?
Sure. So for us, I really don't think we would be able to have a successful solution that we sold around the world without having the ability to capture like not just basic analytics, but sophisticated metrics and really to monitor the performance, because our customers are on a spectrum from the smaller to the very large, and so their needs can vary too. And so we have some customers who are very technically competent and really across their quality of experience metrics, which are technical metrics like the join time, how long it takes a piece of video to start after you've pressed play, and other metrics related to that. So I think without these kinds of insights that come out of the box with NPAW, we really wouldn't be able to be competitive in the marketplace. And so I think for us, the quality of experience elements are really actively reviewed on a regular basis. I mean, I think your team will be aware that I think we ask you every quarter, I think, for the new benchmarking metrics that you've got based on your data sets. So we utilize your larger data sets to benchmark against us. Actionable insights or turning that data into actionable insights is a little bit of a more complicated solution, because we have to then get the data out of your solution and make that actionable our side. But what we do use some of your data for is things like we can pass that information for push notifications, or we can pass that flags or triggers into other systems that can lead to maybe an email in a CRM. Or we can use your system to do things like to surface the most popular content for a particular user by understanding what that user watches most. And so we can get the data out of NPAW using the open APIs to trigger third-party actions. And it's usually connecting to another method, such as a push notification or an email or an in-app notification of some kind.
Okay, very interesting, very interesting. We see in different surveys that low quality of experience and high buffer ratio or even more severe quality issues like errors and player crashes actually, has become one of the top 5 reasons to churn. So in fact, yeah. So what is interesting me, I mean, you as Simplestream, you have a lot of different customers, right? From live to on-demand customer, from specific contents like you mentioned a few on your chart, like news channels, sports or faith-friendly content. What is the biggest challenge when it comes to quality of experience for these different platforms?
I suppose for us, it's going to be multi-territory deployments and multi-app deployment. So we're not just putting out one app in the UK. We are putting out 12 apps in every country in the world, and each country has its own infrastructure. And so say we were doing a deployment in Africa, our benchmarking as to what is acceptable in Africa in terms of the infrastructure, the quality of the video streams that you can get, is going to be much lower than we can support in, say, Europe. An average bit rate in Africa, in, say, Nigeria and Kenya, 800 kilobytes on average, but that's acceptable in that marketplace. If we're talking about something in, say, Iceland, you're talking 4.5 megabytes required as standard, because they all have gigabyte connections to the home. And so for us, multi-region with multi-app is a complication, but it's also what we do as our bread and butter, so it's no problem. So we have built our workflows to be resilient and to be easily scalable. And so particularly as an example for live streaming, some of our video workflows that are demanding, we've moved away from, say, cloud-based origin servers, which is an actual server in the cloud with a size limit and which needs to be scaled, to storing live streaming chunks in a higher capacity storage medium instead, and pulling that as the origin, which does not need to be scaled. It means the system is more responsive and it doesn't need to scale because the CDN connects directly to the high response storage medium.
Right. So, I mean, obviously you're pretty advanced in working with video analytics already. What would you tell, what would you propose a video provider that is just entering the market of actionable insights and analytics? What would we propose to him? What should they be monitored? What should they be monitoring in live TV? And what is the most important quality metrics from your perspective? And how does that differ between live TV and on demand?
So the kind of key metrics that we're always looking at is, I suppose, to start with, number one is the play metric, because nothing happens in anything that either of us do without somebody pressing play. So the number of plays a customer gets each month or each day is the starting point for everything. Then from that, everything else flows. So the first thing is going to be the amount of play time, the duration of a user's interaction with the video per day, per week, per month. That is very telling as to how sticky your platform is. There are basic elements which support that, i.e. if you're watching live or VOD, you will tend to see higher viewing in terms of 3 or 4 times higher on live than you will on VOD. That's just a fact out of the box. A similar just out of the box fact is that bigger screen again has higher viewing times than smaller screen, i.e. my phone versus my TV. But then talking back to your previous point, the reliability of the service is then the factor in the middle, which can disrupt all of the things that we've assumed, like big screen being having higher viewing times. If the service is buffering a lot, if the performance is really bad, if it takes 10 seconds of black screen before your video gets there, that is all very poor, and for subscription services will likely result in a higher churn risk, and for ad-supported services may result in the user looking for the content elsewhere or looking to get the content ad-free in some way. And so it is important to keep an eye on these metrics, such as join time, buffer ratio, and things like interruptions. So interruptions is where there is an event which happens within the player which causes a disruption to the playback experience, and that is a broad metric. And so interruptions is another element that we track quite closely, because you want as minimal number of buffer events as possible. And we also use this data in NPAW because of the way the data is visualized and it can be per end user. We see an increase in number of our customers utilizing the actual usage metrics as a customer support tool as well. So a customer on a subscription service would like a refund. They say, I didn't get the live event that I paid for. Our customer is actually able to validate whether that is true. And in some cases, that might not be found to be quite correct. But in some cases, they also might find that it is correct, issue the refund, and then we can get an escalation based on that to take action to resolve that in future. So it can be really helpful, not just conceptually, but in a real world environment when there are real people paying for these services.
Yeah, that's what I mentioned before, the customer care product from us, right? And where we actually see the user on the individual view, and we see exactly the individual view experience, and therefore we can help him, of course, even better. But also we can track if the live or the product that he bought was actually played out, right? We come to that later as well a little bit. So besides all the metrics, and you named a few KPIs that are really important to track. Besides of that, what is the most important requirements from your perspective on a video analytics tool by itself? So what kind of features, what kind of topics are very important for you when it comes to having data and using data as actual insights, as we mentioned before?
I suppose ease of use, really, like coming back to my point that these data that we collect kind of has to be usable to real world people. We're not dealing with developers and necessarily highly technical people every day. We're dealing with real people doing their jobs at companies, small, medium and large, who need to be able to go in and grab the data that is relevant to them. Could be an engineer, could be a commercial person, could be someone in product. And so what we need is easy data visualization and an easy way to be able to correlate that data and just display in different ways. And so that's the ability to have different types of graphs and widgets. And I think in NPAW work, there's like 50 different ways to visualize the data. And also on top of that, we can do includes and excludes and splits of different metrics, i.e. just overlaying different metrics on each other to see correlation. And that is all really self-service and out of the box. You don't need a data scientist to be able to do that. You just need to be shown once how to do it. The reporting, of course, on top of that allows us to get out large amounts of data outside of just visualizing this information in a dashboard. And so getting reports out, particularly automated reports, has been a really winning tool, because our customers can go in, create an exportable report that works for them or for one of their external content owners. And then rather than having to do that manually every month, they can set it up as an automated report in future. And so then elements of the reporting that used to require human intervention are now completely automated. And so it can be, for time saving for us, being called Simplestream is great for our customers, because we want to keep everything really simple and straightforward and try to save time, because often digital teams for our customers are going to be a lot smaller than you might anticipate it, because there aren't many Netflixes out there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, really important points. One point I can also add, if I may. I think what is really important as well is to have the possibility to identify the most critical errors in real time, right? I mean, I think finally we have one really a real use case, a data use case where real-time error does make a difference, or real-time evaluation does make a difference, because ideally you want to, you want to identify the root cause and mitigate the error of the quality issues way ahead. The majority of users are impacted. So I think that is also a really important point here. We often hear and talk about real-time data, and in most cases it doesn't really make a difference if it's real-time or not. But I think here, when it comes down to errors, that is really a major topic where it really helps you to, identify root causes before a lot of users are affected. That, from my perspective, that is another really important point added to your comments there.
That real-time data as well. The delays, I think, at less than a minute in the panel, so you're essentially getting a completely real-time view of what is occurring. So say during a big live event, we can monitor the real-time concurrency. If there is a sudden 20% drop in the concurrent users during the peak time of the event, that is a serious issue that should not be occurring. We can filter that concurrency by every single one of our 13 platforms. You can see a breakdown of each one in real time. So we can see actually everything's fine, but there has been a disruption on iOS mobile. And so we need to review that specific application straight away. And the delay in us knowing that would be 1 minute. If we wanted to be even more proactive rather than having eyes on, we could use the alerting module to put a specific alert on that with a priority. And so we can use the AI alerts or the manual alerts to also set thresholds. So there's lots of opportunities to be alerted, but yeah, the real-time nature of the data can be really helpful, particularly if you have live events or sport where we have literally the graphs in our ops system basically visible.
Yeah, you just mentioned a issue in a specific device, and so how important is for you the ability to do what we call an unlimited multidimensional filtering? So really unlimited deep dive of multimetric analysis. So for example, identify what errors occurred on a specific device in a specific region with specific content. How are you analyzing on a regional or country or even city levels these kind of errors?
I mean, to be honest, all of the above. I mean, we've had kind of specific examples in the past whereby a customer in a certain territory is experiencing constant quality of experience problems, buffering at certain times of day, and it's not really possible without really sophisticated multimetrics to get to the bottom of that. And I think in this example, we spent quite a while debugging it, and in the end we'd used kind of location, city, postcode prefix, and we got down to the final point where we found the issue was with the actual ISP itself. There's multiple ISPs in every region, and in this case it took to go right down to the ISP level to find out that actually 9 out of 10 were fine, but one of the ISPs in this region had an issue unrelated to us. But we meant we were able to point that out to the customer, and then they were able to work locally in their territory to resolve that. And so really, depending on how technical the issue is, having these metrics that you don't always think you're going to use. ISP isn't necessarily one we thought we would use out of the box, but some of these metrics have been useful in unknown ways, basically. And so we managed to find that out really by overlaying, as you said, overlaying multiple multi-metrics on top of each other to see which particular metric was identifying a drop in performance, i.e. which ISP had the poorest performance in this case. But you've got to do that by going through lots of different metrics, and so that's where overlaying them all at once can save you a lot of time. Rather than doing 27 analyses, you can almost do them simultaneously.
Absolutely, yeah. I would like to come to another feature that is for me a really great value. I would like to hear your opinion on that. I mean, do a lot of your customers actually are in need for what we call a multi-tenant solution? So having the possibility to separate the data by, for example, brand. So if you have a multi-brand company or a multi-product company, region or department, etc., whatever you want to do to have a umbrella view on the entire data for the top management at the same time, but also very specific pillars of specific data silos. Is that something that you use a lot or your customers use a lot?
Actually, yes. So, I mean, Simplestream itself, we sit at the top with the kind of what we call the master account, and then we create special user access limited child accounts below our master account so that each customer has, of course, segmented access to their own data. I think what you're getting, we term it multi-brand services, whereby we've got an umbrella customer who might have 3 different channels, 3 different brands, all completely unique with their own management teams, for example. And so they need analytics for each of them, but one group might need access to 2 panels and the other group might only get access to their own 1 panel, but the customer itself has 3 different analytical panels. And so yes, so we have several customers actually who have multiple NPAW instances, all of them user segregated for data protection, and so they can access as much or as little of the data as we need. And as you mentioned, with management having access to kind of all of the brands as needed. So yeah, so we find that to be super helpful, and it's again literally 1 click for us to set this up, so it's kind of no hassle. And really essential for us, because there are lots of big media companies who want a set of applications per brand or per channel that they have, but there are others on the other side that aggregate into kind of a multi-channel app.
Yeah, it's very. I agree. I think it's a great tool and very helpful for seeing really on a detail base what is going on in the specific brands or products if you have a multi-product company, for example. Great. You mentioned the reports a few minutes ago, and how helpful they are and how much your customer need them or use them. What are the main kind of reports that your customers mainly request, and what kind of data do they want to see, and how do they like to get these reports? And is that something that you set up for them, or is that something they do by yourself? So how do you work with the reports with them?
So the exported reports, we usually help our customers set those up initially, because it's all about the learning curve, right? Initially, when this is set up, everything seems very inaccessible and very confusing. So we train the customer a little bit. We sometimes get your team involved as well to help us with the training. And so once the customer has a certain level of understanding, and you understand the principles of how the panel works and the difference between a metric kind of and a dimension, like a metric, I think, being something that is counted like a play, whereas a dimension is something kind of empirical like a device. Then it's much easier for the customer to get to grips with how to use the panel. So on the reports, the most popular report we see is kind of like a title or an audience report. A title report being, give me the plays, the play time, the average bit rate, and other metrics by the title of the piece of content. And so that means that a customer can get visibility of what their top performing content is. But we collect 100+ metrics as part of our NPAW integration. So there's kind of 3 elements really. We get data from NPAW out of the box, i.e. there's information that the code that NPAW provides us in the player collects, like it tells us the CDN and various other elements. There's then information on the content that you're watching, the metadata that we send into NPAW as extra information, like the genre of the show, the name of the show, the series it's part of, etc. And then the third element is what's called custom dimensions, which is custom information that basically our team has determined that we have in our system, information we have in our system, like subscription status and various other elements that we also pass in. And so our customers can use that data, any of those metrics, to build reports on that basis. And so title report is probably the most popular that we have, just to get a really basic understanding of what's performing and what's not. But the breadth of reports that can be created makes it really difficult for me to narrow down exactly what everyone is doing, because there's hundreds of different reports you could run. And also, again, as we mentioned, the user ID is an example of a custom metric we pass in, so that our customers can track end users across different platforms. And it also means they can see what the customers often do. Are they binge watching? Because you need to have the user IDs to understand if individual customers are en masse binge watching. And so that's where we can make changes to make sure the customers watch more content in a binge situation rather than only watching one thing at a time.
Okay. Luz, as we want to keep the time, we almost run through the time. One last question I would like to ask before we come to some customers or some questions of the audience. A question that we get a lot of well, very often actually in the industry is about what does video analytics provide on top that Google Analytics, for example, cannot do. So is that something that you are facing as well with your customers? That's something that you need to explain often to them about the difference between Google Analytics and video analytics, and where is the limit of Google Analytics basically, and where is the advantage of additional really in-stream video analytics?
Good question. Definitely, it comes up occasionally. We always recommend using our premium analytics out of the box because it provides the best insights. But where it does come up about the comparison with GA, I mean, GA is a really good tool, but it's not really an out-of-the-box video analytics suite. It's designed to track, it has the ability to track video events, but the way you can extract and present the data is quite limited, because frankly, GA was designed to track users for the purposes of selling ads. That's what Google makes that product for. And so you can't really compare GA or really their Firebase product to a product like NPAW, which is designed really solely to track video, and that's what you guys do every single day to make it better. That's not what Google does every single day with their products. So we definitely still utilize GA and Firebase for app level interaction analytics, and they're really good for tracking engagement and certain levels of attribution, i.e. you spent money on a Facebook ad, you can then attribute that with goals and flows in GA and Firebase to an action within your app, and that's still one of the best services around. But if you're a large multi-region service serving live and VOD, if you want proper visibility of what is happening on your platforms with the level of detail of the analytics that we capture, with literally all the metadata you send us available to be used as an insight, you really need to utilize a premium video analytics solution. And I suppose the main benefits, I think, which we've kind of covered off in the past really, are that the data is real time. The data in Google Analytics and Firebase is not real time, and the ability to visualize the data with the dashboards, it can't really be compared. And the fact that you can export the data in a wide variety of formats, again, makes it really easy. So you just can't get that with a non-premium video solution.
Absolutely. And if I may add one thing, I think also video Google Analytics basically ends where a user is clicking the event, play a video, and it doesn't really actually provide any information about the quality of the video, right, and the perceived quality of the user from the video. So it doesn't show you any insights about what actually happened after the user clicked the event play video. So I think that's something where, as you said, Google Analytics is great for attribution model, for evaluating where actually the users are coming from, but as soon as they are on your platform, I think that's where you need a little bit deeper view on it. Yeah. So I mean, I think that was really interesting, Lewis. Time was running so fast, and we're done already. So thank you very much for that. And let's jump to some customer or questions from the audience, as we had a few there. Here's one, Lewis. It's a question about, does NPAW support all kind of platforms?
Okay, yeah.
That's something you want to take?
I think, yeah, sure. So I think, as we've probably mentioned multiple times, we support kind of a 13 plus platforms in terms of different types of application that you might see, from iOS to Android to Fire TV to Samsung, etc. And so for us as a requirement, obviously it's critical that any vendor we work with for video analytics can be embedded in every app that we make. And so for us, yes, you support all of the platforms that we have out of the box, and that is from Swift-based code for iOS to Java-based code for Android to BrightScript for Roku, and so you're across all of our platforms. So the key thing for us is to give our customers that holistic view that the analytics are the same across every platform, and NPAW allows us to do that by having that broad support, even through to some of our really niche platforms like set-top boxes, which all have slightly different code types. We're supporting you there as well by your plugin solution.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, basically, whenever a device or the platform speaks IP, we can track it, right? So we do support all kind of IP platforms in the world, and actually also we are compatible with 100% of the video players around the globe. So yeah, including set-top boxes, as you mentioned. Another question that came in: what kind of personal data do you track, and is that in line with GDPR? I think that might be a question, Lewis, that I can take. So yes, NPAW is absolutely in line with GDPR. We are constantly audited regarding the GDPR compliance, and we can say that data security, I mean, we are a data company, so for sure data security is the highest priority that we have in our company. In terms of personal data that we track, it's the IP address, the device, and the user ID. But of course, all of our customers or even individual users can actually opt out. You know, as we all offer all our customers the right to be forgotten. as this is one of the major requirements from GDPR. So yes, we are absolutely in line with GDPR, and actually this is one of our USPs as well, as we don't send any kind of data, of user data, to the US. We all store them in Europe, so that is also really important. By the way, we also are ISO 27001 certified, so that's an international standard of how to manage information security. We do have the highest requirements regarding the security management system at NPAW. There's one further question. Maybe we have time for a last question, Luis. It actually goes out to you. So how important is it for your company to provide bit size of vertical sports highlights to drive engagement for the digital native generation?
Yes, so this is something we have done in the past, actually, of we kind of call it live to VOD or catch-up TV. The idea of taking a live broadcast and essentially slicing it up for highlights. And there are different ways that we currently achieve that. What's really good in the marketplace is that these kind of clips, kind of, it's what YouTube was built on and things like that. It's taking the most exciting parts of something and then capitalizing on that. And so we can create these clips with a couple of different tools. The first one is we can utilize a pre-existing playout schedule. If the customer is working with OBS or with someone else who is doing dynamic tagging as the live stream is happening, i.e. a goal has happened, a foul has happened, etc., we can ingest those cue points so that we can understand where the start and stop of critical events are, and we can then create VOD from the live stream in real time and then syndicate that to various different platforms. If a customer isn't set up with that level of sophistication, because there's an investment there, then we also offer a cloud-based video editor that allows you to view your live stream as it's happening, add mark in and mark out points, and just generate your own clips, which are frame accurate. And so for us, for sports, it's going to be a really important tool, and we have those tools out of the box really within our solution. And then once you've got those clips created as VOD, you can use them on any of our platforms within your own applications if they're not with us, or pass them into video feeds to parties like Samsung via fast channels.
Okay. Then one last question. Reports say that 2022 is supposed to be the year of the mobile phone. Do you have insights into second screening? And would you agree that Asia Pacific are more mobile phone driven when viewing events? So one thing for sure for the second part of the question, we do have a yearly report at NPAW where we exactly display these kind of things or questions on facts about mobile usage, device usage per different regions. And yes, for sure, the Asia Pacific region is much more mobile driven when it comes to streaming. And by the way, our new report will come out I think in 2 weeks, the second week of March. And we're going to have a webinar about that as well. But what do you think about the first part of the question is, so do you have insights into second screening?
I would say within those regions, I would agree with what they're saying based on our data. We have customers specifically located within both Africa and Asia. And I would say that is the smaller screen viewing is consistent with what we're seeing in both commercially and data driven, i.e. that customers in those regions tend to restrict what they purchase and deploy to mobile and tablet applications and possibly web as well. And I think that's driven by one, the infrastructure. As we mentioned earlier, bit rates in, say, Africa are going to be lower because the infrastructure is not the same as here. And so that means that viewing in the home on larger screens, which requires one more expensive devices, and Apple TV is £190, that's not going to be the main device in those regions, both Asia and Africa. And the infrastructure, of course, is a problem as well. And so I'd say we're not seeing a huge boom in small screen. In terms of us, we're still seeing big screen being king, in that I think our average at the moment is something like 21 minutes viewing across a small screen device on something like Live. But if you take our same data set and look at that across big screen, you might see, say, 69 minutes viewing on average across big screen devices. So as I mentioned earlier, live bigger than VOD typically in terms of interaction and viewing times, big screen better than smaller screen in terms of devices. But that's just our trends that we're seeing.
Great. Thank you very much, Lewis. I think we covered all the questions that came from the audience. So for me, it was really nice. It was a pleasure, Lewis, to have a discussion with you about the OTT trends and situation and how you use NPAW. Yeah, thank you very much for joining.
And thanks for hosting.
Great, sure. Hope to repeat that again sometime. And thank you everybody for listening.